So everyone, this is a really exciting topic today. I couldn't wait to talk about it because it is like something we've all, well, if you've ever consumed alcohol at an increased rate and have had a moment where you've been drunk,
we know
frankly,
you have.
most of us,
especially
this is going to relate to you. And it's an interesting thing because there's this constant sort of question in our culture about like, do you get honest when you get drunk? And we have a little different point of view on this. And we're going to talk about that today. But first, I kind of want to know, Talia, how much do you drink?
How much do you drink,
Okay,
Doug?
that was a defensive response.
Oh, sorry.
So
I'm going to try that again more
to model
maturely.
good communication, when I ask a question, you could respond to that. And then if you have a question for me, you can actually ask me as well. Let's take turns and be respectful.
God, is this what it feels like to be therapized by a couples therapist?
This is what it's like to be in a relationship with me.
Ew.
It's really good. I have really a lot of good track records, as people know.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and guests. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. This podcast also does not establish a standard of care, doctor-patient, or client relationship. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website. And because each person is so unique, all listeners are encouraged to connect with counseling and medical professionals for assistance with their personal journey. All people, places, and scenarios mentioned in the podcast have been changed to protect the privacy of those involved.
Welcome to We're Not Fine. I'm Dr. Talia Jackson.
And I'm Doug Jensen. We thank you for listening every week to our deep and thought-provoking conversations about relationships.
Why do we drink at the end of the day? It's like I personally feel like I need a marker, a differentiator between the workday and making the tedious tasks of caring for humans in your home that some people find a lot of joy in. I need to make it feel like a little bit more of a party. Like if I have a glass of wine while I'm making dinner for the family, it feels like I'm creating my own party.
Have you answered the question yet?
I don't drink at all. What about you, Doug?
That's a lie. Are you saying
maybe you should get me drunk and I'll tell the truth?
I have. We'll see if that's the truth. We'll find out.
What about you?
What about
my
right
dear
now?
friend? What about you?
What is your consumption right now?
Like this
Like how many
morning?
do you have before recording?
Only 12. I will say that I do, unless I'm day drinking because I'm on vacation,
This is
which
kind of vacation.
then I'm pretty much like, it has to be 5 o'clock somewhere for me to
Isn't there
pour
a
that
t-shirt
glass.
like that gets sold at all weird places in the world?
I feel like you're avoiding.
Oh, you want me to answer the question?
Yes,
Did
of
you
course I
Did you
do.
ask me?
How much are you imbibing?
Did you actually answer?
Are you more dependent or abusive?
I'm curious. Did you answer the question?
Have you ever been throat punched by a therapist?
Not by a therapist, but yes, I have been throat punched.
Okay, tell our people.
It took a while to recover. I didn't like it.
Tell our people. Tell our people what you're drinking.
So I just want to go on the record that when someone denies answering the question on my assessment forms about chemical usage on the TAPS form that I present to new clients,
What does that mean to you?
it means that you are probably problematic in that area.
And do you know that most MDs, if you go to the doctor and they ask you how many drinks per week you drink and you'll answer and they triple it because they know.
Yeah, that you're lying. This is what I want to say, guys, though. I very seriously, like, I enjoy escaping a little bit on a day where I can go in the hot tub or I can watch a hockey game with my buddies or whatever it is. And so I'm going to go once a week is my usage.
What?
I don't do it during the week.
But do you have as many as I would have
Yes.
having one a day?
Yeah, I mean, honestly.
Or one
you
and a
know,
half, if I have to be really honest. Except for Sundays, I've decided.
I don't do
And not
Sundays
because it's God's day.
I'm glad you brought that into it because I'm sure that's really relevant.
Okay, let's skip
So
to
here's
the
the deal.
meat.
Like, the question is, are we more honest when we're drunk? It's
And-
drunk.
Doug and I literally had this conversation, read all the same information, and came to completely different conclusions.
Can I also tell people something that we probably need to say? Like, we both take this issue very seriously because chemical dependency or addiction is a very serious matter for a lot of people. And of course, drinking while intoxicated or using
Drinking while intoxicated.
or stoned is absolutely not.
Do you mean driving?
Did I say that?
You said
Wrong?
drinking.
I meant driving.
Yes.
But seriously, we need to be serious about this in some ways. So,
Well,
honestly,
absolutely.
yeah.
And if it's causing any issues for you in
Yeah.
your life, if you happen to find yourself in relationships where you guys really fight a lot every time you're drinking, it's the drinking. It's not the relationship.
Or you're making bad choices, period. So this is a fascinating conversation.
Yes.
Like, are we really more honest? And yes, we do see this differently. So I'm excited for
I
this.
tried to take really sciencey medical jargon and explain in laywoman's terms, layperson's terms, what effect alcohol has on the brain. So the first thing that we already know, it impairs our judgment. Yes, it does. And when your judgment is impaired, the last person to know is you. We don't know when our judgment's impaired. Next thing it does is it inactivates our frontal lobes, which we actually need for functioning and adult living and decisions and behaviors. And because of that, and Doug's going to dive into this more later, but it's the most fascinating topic, that or concept I'd never even heard about, but that we start displaying punished behaviors that are punished in civil society.
Like, you would generally not say those things in a normal situation. So yeah, punished behaviors just means those things that otherwise we wouldn't say because there is some consequence socially to them.
Or like
you already
yelling, being rude in
said.
public.
You said boisterous, yeah. All that stuff. Yep.
Public altercations.
Yep.
Scratching your butt at a hockey game. I don't know, probably a lot.
No, not that. But it's all the stuff, honestly, that in some ways, is not endorsed. And so when and the other thing about this is that when we're young and our neocortex has not been formed entirely, we are more apt to do that when we're young. Obviously, kids say things that they may not mean. They may be rude in ways that they don't intend. And so when we get older, hopefully we have those discrepancies. But yeah, I think
because we're mature.
Well,
and
some
civil.
of us. Yeah.
Sometimes more than others.
So that's the interesting piece. Like, so when we drink, we do become uninhibited and we engage in those boisterous fights or arguments, or we say things to people that the question is, do we mean them or do we not mean them?
Well, and that's the piece that I feel like you and I read all the same stuff, but we don't exactly disagree. We don't exactly agree.
I don't know that we really disagree, because I would say that punished behavior experience is one that is not thoughtful. Like, I think the goal in communication, as we've said many times on this podcast, the goal in our communication with those in our life is to be thoughtful and to be clear and to own our feelings and our experience. And that's why I don't think we're honest when we're drinking or drunk or intoxicated, because I think we don't have any filter about that. And we generally go after people in a way that we would otherwise not. So I don't think we're really saying what we mean and meaning what we say. And I will tell you honestly, I have a lot of experience with a few occasions where that is the case.
A lot of experience, but only in a few occasions or many occasions.
I would say with very few people in my life. Like, I don't generally there's this big question about like, are you an angry drunk or a happy drunk? I have generally never had a problem with drinking, but I swear when I have strain with people in my life.
Yeah. But then, okay, so keep going. When you have strain with people,
I might become boisterous. I might say things in a way that I would never say otherwise.
But do you mean them?
No, nope, absolutely not.
You've never felt those feelings? They're coming out of nowhere? Or are they?
Not the way that they're coming out.
Well, so this is what I would argue.
Statement never happens out of my mouth.
Okay, so what you're saying is it's not mature and it's not thoughtful and it's not intentional, but I'm wondering
it's also not accurate. It's making assumptions. It's distorting the truth. It's
not mature, but would you find it fair to say that maybe they're like long repressed thoughts or feelings, or when we have been upset in the past, or we've thought things that we never should have said? Those are the things that come out. Like, they are our truths, but maybe they're truths from when we're feeling angry or immature or activated, but they're still truths.
I don't think so. I think they're distortions or assumptions. Like I say, an assumption would not be something that I think would be true of me if I'm not drinking. Like, I might otherwise say, so I'm feeling this when you do this. Can you tell me more what's happening?
Which is mature. It's a mature way of saying.
You purposely did that to hurt me or something to somebody, right? Like, that's not what I would say. And that's not even a truth. That's a distortion and a defense and angry comment. So
I like the word distortion because, like,
too.
for me, I feel like I've never had angry reactions to alcohol, but also, like, I think I've been like drunk. Me, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 times where I've been like drunk. But usually it's like a glass or 2 of wine. So I never really have that experience of, saying the things that I regret. But the things that I do that I have said in the past that I regret, it's been more like accentuated truths where you feel really warm and lovey, or you feel like too familiar. So you'll say these things that you probably wouldn't say if you have good boundaries, which is maybe why people, when they drink, they behave badly, and they can't trust that if they are people with integrity or good boundaries, they're just like, their frontal lobe is mush.
I also kind of wonder if it can be different from person to person. And this is not something I have any data available for this podcast on. Like, is it possible that some people do better when they're drunk at being respectful and telling what the truth is without that exaggeration or without that distortion? And so, yeah, I don't think assumptions, distortions, I don't think those are truths. I think the truth comes when we're being thoughtful and we own our experience versus go after people. And boy, like, and the other piece that I might say about this is that we end up apologizing a lot. Like, I've heard from a lot of people, like, oh my God, I have such regret about saying what I said, which tells me, by the way, that they would not do it that way, or they even didn't mean what they said. By the way, 100% I can own that I've said things I don't mean.
Okay.
Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, I think it's like, there's some truth to, like, I'm pissed at this person.
Well, and for me, it wouldn't be the I'm pissed. It would be like, I've always thought this thing about you.
Yeah.
But it won't be like mean. It would just be like, boy, I've been holding that in for 20 years because it's not something I would want to say. I think so too. But so basically, if they're feelings that we're feeling when we're angry and immature, and the way we present them when we're drunk is a way that we're going to regret, like, are people also maybe sometimes using getting drunk as just an excuse? Like, well, I can get away with this behavior.
That would be sad, right?
I wonder.
Like, I seriously have, I know, I'm not sure I can imagine a time when someone hasn't said that they regret that experience again. And so I think there's a part of what you just said where I don't know that people would use that as an excuse because it's unpleasant, which kind of brings us to the very clinical part of this. Like, if you're doing things, if you're getting routinely drunk and you're doing things that, are not something you want to, like, wake up and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened.
Right. Then then I think it's officially a problem.
I think so too. Except it doesn't necessarily mean you need treatment. It doesn't necessarily mean you have a chemical dependency or addiction. It means that maybe binging is something you want to watch, right?
And maybe
if you experience it that way.
Perfect timing to talk about this right before the holidays.
Yeah.
Because I will say, like, Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day, even though we celebrate Hanukkah, but, like, I have no duties on Christmas Day. So that might be a good day to have some eggnog. I don't think I like eggnog. There's like buttercream, buttered rum. I don't know. You know what? I'll get back to you.
It's a hot toddy.
But, maybe we need to watch it. If it's an issue, if it's causing issues in our relationship, if we're mean, I just get like lovey and sloppy and not mean. So maybe we have different drunk experiences.
It's a really interesting question. Like, I wonder if it's when there's unresolved issues in a situation where people might get upset. I also think, though, that there's an underlying potential comorbidity with mental health that interferes here. I would say that if the people who are getting drunk have not done their work, if they're generally unstable in their life, if they have a lot of stress, I think it can really cause people to decompensate when they get drunk.
Yes.
And so I think there's a lot of factors involved in this. But again, I might say, this big question about, like, if you've been around somebody who has been intoxicated and they say a number of things to you, maybe give them a little grace. And it is appropriate, if you're on the other side of these comments or behaviors, to kind of check it out. I mean, people get violent, people get get into fights, all that sort of thing.
It's true.
And it's really
sometimes when people are blackout drunk, they will have no recollection, and you'll be sitting there waiting for an apology, but they weren't even there, even though they're the ones that hurt you. Friends, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Perfect one to lead into hot toddy season. And you know where to find us. We're on Instagram, douglasljensen with an E-N, Dr. Talia Jackson. We're on YouTube. YouTube's where it's at, guys.
We're on TikTok too.
Oh, yes. And we've got oh my gosh, we have such a funny social media TikTok editor. She's really killing it.
Thank you, Dig. Also, go to we'renotfine.com if you have any comments. These are the conversations where we'd love to have feedback from you on your real experience that we might bring back into the conversation.
Yes,
so feel
please.
free to contact us. Let us know what your experience is with other people or yourself during intoxication of an alcohol or other substance, I might say, which is a whole nother conversation. We're mostly focusing in on alcohol here, but different drugs have different meanings. But yes, we'renotfine.com. Feel free to give us our questions, give us your comments, give us everything that you need.
And then we can address them as mailbags. We live for this. Take care, you guys. Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.